Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my podcast, Xena, Life as a Dominatrix. This is episode 21. This will be broadcasted today, Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Today's topic, Story Time, Part 2. These particular stories have been written in my book, Xena, Life as a Dominatrix. My book can be found on Amazon. I just wanted to plug that in. Also, each and every my podcast episode, I have a little link that states support the show, and that link leads to my Venmo page. It's totally up to you if you would like to tip. Tips are not obligated or required, but tips are appreciated, so just wanted to plug that in as well. So let me open up to chapter 10 in my book. So this headline, Stories. And all these stories, everybody's personal information is not revealed. Everybody's anonymous. I respect everybody's confidentiality. But I just wanted to talk about some stories. Let's see, 2010. So that was what, 12 years ago? Yeah, 12 years ago. 2010. The Prisoner. Ooh. He wanted to be interrogated. Another individual. He was into being a human pig, smelling my stinky socks, my dirty panties, and forced to eat junk food. The human pup. Human puppy training with one individual who enjoyed moaning and barking very loud during our session. I placed him in the cage and he cried like a human pup. I rewarded him with a real dog bone. He had to wash down the crumbs, so I had him sip from the dog bowl. Before the session, he told me, I have a bag of canned dog food in my coat pocket. Can you please feed it to me? After his dog treat, it was feeding time. I watched him smell the dog food in the dog bowl, and he licked it. It smelled awful. I shouted, "Eat it!" He couldn't go with it, so I had him sniff it instead. He had to perform tricks too, like rolling over, speaking like a dog, sitting, or give paw. Okay, another story. The Short Man. Giantess roleplay, who also enjoyed full toilet training. I had to prep for my scene by eating yogurt and drinking coffee. I laughed at him and he was receiving an unforgettable shower. Pretty gross. In real life, like if somebody asked me what's the most humiliating scene, that would probably be one of them, is that type of fetish. Okay, another scene, the enema patient. He only enjoyed receiving a nice, warm, soapy enema. During the enema, he was experiencing some cramping inside his stomach. I rubbed his belly and administered the enema at the same time. I gave him a 2-quart enema. The enema nozzle was quite large, too. It was humiliating for him. He enjoyed it when I watched him release his bowels into the toilet. I had to light an incense stick since the smell was nauseating. He asked, "Is it possible if you could give me another enema?" I said yes. I prepped the enema bag once again, and he continued to release inside the toilet. When he finished, I prepped him up on the exam table once again. Then I administered another enema, again cramping and discomfort. I told him, "Pain in your stomach? That pain resembles my monthly menstrual cramps. I take those cramps like a champ. And so should you." He whispered, "I cannot hold in the water. I need to go to the bathroom." I gently removed the enema nozzle from his bottom and he squirted on the floor. He hobbled to the bathroom and I noticed he squirted on the wooden floor. I thought, great, just great. There's ass juice on the fucking floor. While he was releasing his bowels, I cleaned the floor. I thought, that's the last enema I am going to give him. While he was on the toilet, he asked for another enema. I said no. He begged for another one. I said, no, you have had enough. Next scene, the armpit slave. He only wanted to worship my armpits when they were sweaty, stinky, and hairy. Lucky for him, they were all of the above. I had him lick it, kiss it, and sniff my armpits. The bad boy. Bad boy, his punishment was a harsh spanking, only using my bare hands. The scene was that he was stealing women's underwear from the lingerie shop. So I placed him in the cage, and he continuously begged me to be released. I told him, you are never leaving this cage. I laughed in his face, and he begged and begged and begged, and I said, when I release you, you are going to tolerate my spankings from these precious hands of mine. Understand? He agreed. I restrained him to the St. Andrew cross and spanked his ass continuously. He took it, anything to avoid being placed in that cage again. The human candle. CBT and nipple torture, only using candle wax. I had him restrained to the bondage table, blindfolded and gagged. Before that, I had him remove his clothes. He was one hairy man, and I thought, great, this candle wax would not be easy to take off from his hairy body. So I applied baby oil onto his genitals and nipples. I whispered, are you ready to feel the heat? He nodded yes. I began dripping the candle wax onto his nipples. His moanings were incredibly loud. I whispered, are you ready for some more wax? He nodded yes. I started dripping candle wax onto his cock. Then I focused on dripping the candle wax onto his balls. He moaned even louder. I removed his nipple-coated wax, and I dripped more candle wax onto his nipples, then back onto his genitals. The bondage enthusiast. Inescapable bondage and tease and denial. I had him remove his clothes except his underwear. I placed him in the leather sleep sack, which is the leather body bag. I zippered him up right in, and I wrapped belts around the sleep sack, keeping him extra secure inside the sleep sack. Before doing so, I had him wear earmuffs, a blindfold, and a ball gag. He could not hear, he could not see. Then I had him listen to some music. I had him wear headphones, and I played ambient music for him to listen to. I removed the ball gag, and I used his face as my personal chair. I wore my leather dress and leather gloves during the session. I had my bound boy smell my leather ass. He still couldn't see me, thanks to the blindfold. After sitting on his face, I gently covered his mouth with my leather-gloved hands. He had to inhale the scent of my leather. Remember the scent of my leather. At the end of the session, he stated it felt like I was floating. I had no idea how long I was in there for. I told him 2 hours. Did it feel like 2 hours? He said no. The tickly. Of course, I played the role as the evil tickler. I had him restrained to the bondage bed. His wrists and ankles were restrained, spread eagle. I showed him the blindfold. He said, please no. I told him, you mean yes. I had him wear the blindfold. I whispered in his ear, I wonder which part of your body I will be tickling first. Again he shouted, please no. Him begging was a part of the scene. Before the session, I told him to say his code word, indicating to stop. I used my fingertips to begin tickling his neck. Then I used my fingernails to begin tickling the bottom of his feet. And then the rest was history. He laughed and laughed, even making me laugh at the sound of giggling filling the room. I thought, I hope the neighbors does not hear the commotion. I stopped tickling him for 1 minute, and then I tickled his tummy. I told him, I wonder what your most ticklish spot is on your body. He said, you'll have to find out. Then I began tickling in between his thighs, then his armpits. I removed the blindfold. Well, hello there, I stated. I walked towards his feet. He begged, no, not the feet. So I tickled his feet. He wiggled and giggled even louder. At the end of the session, he stated my abs hurt from all that laughing. I said, good. When he was about to leave, I showed him my fingers and stated, I look forward to next time. So he smiled. The human ashtray. He bought me a pack of cigarettes. I instructed him to kneel in front of me. Hold out your hands the entire time and keep your mouth open the entire time. He lit the cigarette for me, watching me blow smoke into his face. I dripped the cigarette ashes into his mouth. I smoked some more, then dripped the ashes into his bare hands. I continued doing this. I smoked about 3 cigarettes in total. I put out the first cigarette onto his tongue. I gave him some liquid to wash down the ashes, which were my spit. He was instructed to keep the used cigarette butt inside his mouth. Cigarette number 2 and 3. Same thing. I blew smoke into his face, into his mouth, dripped cigarette ashes into his mouth, into his hands again, and putting out the cigarettes on his tongue. Before the session, he told me that this was his only fetish. He gets so aroused watching a woman wearing red lipstick and smoking long cigarettes. I asked him, when did you first know you had this fetish? He stated, during high school. The mean girls would smoke and I couldn't take my eyes off of them. So yeah, those were a few stories from the year 2010. So let's go to 2011. The human carpet. Human carpet trample slave while barefooted. I had him lay on the floor. I wanted to walk on a comfortable carpet. And voila, here you are, I stated to him. Each time it became too much for him. I instructed him to say mercy. I stood on his chest. I stood on his stomach. I stood on his genitals. He moaned the most when I stood on his genitals. I walked on him, walked off him. I placed my left foot on his stomach and my right foot on his genitals, using my entire body weight to stand on him. He tolerated every bit of it without saying his code word, which was mercy. The patient. His main interest was playing the role as my patient. I played the role as a naughty nurse, so I had him remove his clothes, and he was instructed to wear a patient gown. I prepped him onto the exam table, checked his pulse, checked his heartbeat using the stethoscope, and inserted the thermometer inside his mouth. After I was prepping the enema bag, I gave him a nice warm enema. After he released his bowels into the toilet, After he was finished, I placed him on his back on the exam table. I showed him the dilator set. I stated, "It's time for your sperm sample." He whispered, "Yes, Nurse Xena." I inserted the sounds, which are stainless steel dilators, inside his urethra, going deeper and deeper. After he mentioned that sometimes he has erectile dysfunction, I said, okay, electrotherapy can help you with that issue. I applied the TENS unit onto his penis and his testicles and turned on the electricity. He moaned and whispered, "Thank you, nurse." The cute couple. I seen a cute couple brand new to the lifestyle. They wanted to experience a BDSM session. The husband wanted to learn some tips on how to dominate his wife. She wanted to feel the sensation of a pair of nipple clamps on her nipples, a riding crop gently striking her clitoris, a flogger on her bare back and her bare ass. I showed him how to use these different implements. I also demonstrated some basic rope bondage. While I was using the riding crop, he began gently biting her nipples. He whispered to her, "How does that feel?" She whispered back, "Very good, don't stop." And we didn't stop. She was spoiled by us. I had her wear a blindfold and restrained her to the bondage wall using leather restraints. Her husband grabbed her purse and pulled out her vibrator. He showed it to me, and I whispered, "Turn it on." So that was, and then he whispered to her, "You will come when we get home." Let's see. I'm going to scroll different stories. That's still all from 2011. Ooh, here's one. The Hair Lover. He wanted to see a dominatrix, and he stumbled upon my ad online. His main fetish is hair. He arrived, and I instructed him to brush my hair. After, I ordered him to sniff my hair. He complimented on how my hair looks and feels and smells during the entire session. He asked if he can cut off a little piece of my hair as a souvenir. I said no. I found that odd, and I continued to have him worship my hair. Then he asked if he can wash my hair. I said no. Then he said, "Okay, I'm finished." I said, "The session's not over." He said, "Yes, it is." So I had him gather his belongings, and he left. I found that odd. At first, he was kind, and at the end of the session, he became cold. I think also because he, when I say no, it's my way, and got to abide to my, because everybody has limits, so you have to respect limits. So, and I vaguely remember that, although that was, let's see, in 2011, so 11 years ago. Let's see. So let's go to 2012. Boy, oh boy, some more stories. Okay, let me turn the page. The human chair. All the slave is interested in is face sitting. I wore my pants and I sat on his face. Then I slowly removed my pants, exposing my panties. He said, "Can you take off your panties?" I said, "No." He continuously begged to taste. I said, "No." He asked, "Why not? You will enjoy it." I said, "Because it's my rules. When I say no, I mean no." He said, "Well, that's no fun." I said, "Well, that's too bad." So then I ended the session early since he just kept asking and asking. And then he said, "What can I do to you? What can I do for you to make it up to you?" I said, "Nothing." So he left. The pain slut. This is another story. This particular slave is interested in judicial style caning. When he arrived, I had him bend onto the bondage bench. I strapped him onto the bench, exposing his bare ass and his bare feet. I caned his ass, the bottom of his feet, and the palms of his hands. I used bamboo canes on his body. At the end of the session, his ass appeared to be a nice shade of purple. The bottom of his feet were sore as well. He did not call out his code word during the entire session. Plus, I did not break any canes on his body, which pleased me. Let's see. Let's go to 2013. Okay. The rubber French maid. Ooh. This fetishist is interested in wearing rubber and worshiping my latex-clad body. I decided to wear my shiny, skin-tight black latex catsuit. He brought his own wardrobe, which was a French-made outfit, in latex, of course. his latex hood, latex stockings, and latex gloves. He came prepared. He dressed up for me and did not need any of my assistance. After dressing, I instruct him to lick my latex and to smell my latex. Next comes a vac bed. I placed him in my latex vac bed for a total of 20 minutes. I had him keep the breathing tube inside his mouth, and while he was in the vac bed, I used a vibrator on him, teasing him immensely. I caressed his body, played with his nipples, and continued to tease him. Once I turned off the vacuum for the vac bed, I unzippered the vac bed, and he was able to see me and talk to me. He said it felt as if I were floating inside that bed. So if you don't know what a latex vac bed is, there's photos online, and it's very important to, of course, keep a breathing tube in your mouth, obviously. And for total of 20 minutes, it's pretty good. Let's see. Another story from 2013, the crossdresser. This individual was interested in being transformed into a female. I had him wear a bra, panties, fishnet stockings, a short black wig, and I applied dark makeup onto his face. He was also interested in swallowing my spit, being slapped in the face, and having his bare ass spanked. He was quiet during the entire session, but when he arrived home, he called me and asked if... he actually called and asked if I had herpes. I said no! I thought, wow, that was an extremely strange, yet extremely rude question. Yeah. Wow. Just wow, that was I'm trying to remember this too, and I vaguely remember it. This was 9 years ago. Yeah, I thought that was just very out of the ordinary and very no, of course not. And then you also have to be aware that if you're into spitting fetish, that you could get if you're playing with somebody and he or she has a cold, there's a high chance where you could also get that cold as well. But herpes, come on now. All right, let's turn the page. Okay. The workplace role player. This person continuously sent me emails describing his fetishes. Finally, he had the courage to see me in person. His interest was that he wanted to be my employee, and I played the role as his boss. He gifted me a pair of knee-high socks to wear during the session, so I wore the slacks, a pair of slacks, and underneath were the knee-high socks that I was wearing. After he finished his work duties on time, he was going to receive a lovely reward, which were smelling my feet, while I was wearing the socks, of course. After that, I placed him in a leather straitjacket. I had him lay on the floor, and I rested my feet in his face. Then I teased his nipples using my toes. Then I gently kicked him in the genitals. He enjoyed the sensation, especially while I wore these socks. The wrestler. Okay. His main fantasy was wrestling. During the session, I tackled him onto the mat, wrapped his body around my strong legs, and squeezed. I placed him in different wrestling holds, and he attempted to tackle me to break free of my wrestling holds. He was unsuccessful at it. I was on top during the entire session, and he asked if I could choke him until he passes out. I said, no, that's not safe. Overall, the wrestling session was fun. We both sweated, and we both had a great time. So yeah, some of the some wrestling fetishists, that's their fantasy, is to be choked out, and it's like, no, that's a hard limit. And plus my sessions are, safe, sane, and consensual. Okay, let's go to 2014. 2014. Let's see. So many more stories. Let me see, which one do I want to read? Let's see. Here's a good one. The impregnator. This person had an impregnation fetish. Our session lasted for about 7 hours. During the entire session, we discussed his fantasy to get a woman pregnant. I said, does your wife or girlfriend want to get pregnant? He said, I am single. Then he asked personal questions, like, have I ever been pregnant? I said, no. He asked, have you ever wanted to get pregnant? I said, no. He said, that's too bad. I said, there are some women who want to be a mother and some that do not. He said, I want to find a woman to have a child with me. So he told me, you would make a good mother. I said, well, that's your opinion. He continued on discussing his desire to be a father. He wants to have sex with a woman who also wants a child as much as he does. It makes him excited thinking about it. But at the same time, it made him sad because he's single. That was a very different fetish, discussing that in person. But that's his thing, and yeah. So let's see. The Catholic. This person requested heavy nipple play, cock and ball bondage, collar and leash, having him wear the leather collar, and I lead him by the leash, blowing cigarette smoke into his mouth and being smothered underneath my leather ass. I wore a tight leather skirt and a blouse for the session. At the end of the session, he admitted that he feels guilty for what he has done. I said, why? He said, I feel like I cheated on my wife. I said, well, you didn't. He said, we are Catholic. My wife and I never have done anything like this. So I assured him that what we have done was not cheating. He said, in my wife's eyes, this would be considered cheating. Then I asked him, why did you want to do this in the first place if you feel guilty? He said, I wanted to see you. I've watched your videos and I wanted to experience this firsthand. I told him, do not feel guilty what you've done. He agreed with me, hugged me, and I never saw him again. 2015. Let's see. There's another human toilet, another giantess fantasy. Let's see. Okay. Seeing which story I want to read to you. One more story for this. Story time. Part 2 in my podcast. Xena Life as a Dominatrix. And this is only, 2015. So I'm not going to read... I'm not going to read the rest of the stories in my book. You just have to read them yourself if you would like to. And again, my book is on Amazon. Okay, let me see what... Okay, the needy slave. This slave would see me on a regular basis, sometimes once a week and sometimes once a month. He stated that he has been seeing dominatrixes for over 40 years, and he said that I was his favorite. I told him, I bet you say that to all the ladies. He said, no, you're my favorite. I told him that I was flattered with him. Flattered with the compliment, I mean. Anyways, why I called him a needy slave, he would constantly tap from the bottom. Mistress, can you do this? Mistress, can you do that? Mistress, I need you. Each time I would dress him up in a vintage bra and panty set. tie him down onto the bondage table, blindfold him, tease his nipples, and whisper naughty fantasies in his ear. Once he would become too needy, I would insert a ball gag inside his mouth. His career, he was always in charge. I would constantly remind him that he could not bring this bossy attitude into the dungeon, so he understood. Then he would need this and that and everything. He needed my attention. He would voluntarily tell me his sexual experiences he would have with his wife. I asked him if his wife knows that he's been seeing dominatrixes for all these years. I usually don't get nosy with people, but I was curious to know. He said that she doesn't have a clue. She would not understand the lifestyle. And that's his, basically his choice to keep it a secret. That's his choice. And also, like, in real time, a lot of people are bossy in their career, in their job. So they have that mentality of a bossy, domineering attitude. So it's like, okay, when you walk in and see me into my personal space, my private studio here, all that bossiness, it doesn't come in my studio whatsoever. So I had to, like, keep on telling him that and stuff. So yeah, and then I have stories from 2016, 2017, 2018, etc. So I hope you enjoyed little story time. Some of these stories I remember, like, wow, I remember that like it was yesterday, and then some of them was like, oh, I kind of remember. That's why I like to keep journals and diaries so I could like write notes and to remember things, and also taking photos of where I go, places that I go here in New York or Chicago, and then when I look at the photo, I'm like, oh, I went there. Oh, I ate that. So it helps me remember. And yeah, everybody's anonymous. Confidentiality is very important. And yeah, these stories are in my book, Xena, Life as a Dominatrix. Wanted to plug that in. And yeah, the next podcast will be broadcasted next Tuesday. The topic, well, I'm not going to tell you. You just have to tune in. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed listening to Storytime. And if you have any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to send me an email. And yeah, this was great to discuss. Have a great day.